In 1919, the largest film studio in Sweden was created, called Svensk Filmindustri, now called SF Studios. Over the last 100 years, SF has created several Scandinavian classics, containing some very memorable, and in many cases quintessential logos. However, a large number of their logos are very secretive, and not many people have seen them. With the help of some friends, we've been able to discover some very interesting spectacles, which have to be shown to you. The next chapter in the Secret Logos of series has arrived, and I know you've been waiting for this one. We present to you the Secret Logos of SF Studios, 1919 to 1999.
Before we even talk about SF's logos, we need to mention how it actually formed. The earliest we can go to is 1907. In 1907, AB Svenska Biografteatern was formed. This company is often shortened to simply Svenska Bio. Charles Magnusson became the CEO of Svenska Bio in 1909. They made 27 films. Their logo consisted of an owl. In 1918, film industry AB Scandia, also known as Scandia Film, was created. They made 13 films. Their logo was a Viking ship. Sometimes Stockholm would be seen underneath. I also found it in red. These were not the only two film studios from Sweden during the 1910s. The 1910s was a major decade for the film industry, at least in Sweden. During this time, many film studios formed and then merged with others to stay in competition with each other. Many fell by 1918. In order for Scandia Film to compete with other studios, they decided to merge with Svenska Bio. In doing so, they invented the company we all know and love today, Svensk Filmindustri. So what was SF's logo? Well, the first one was this. SF's logo was designed by Nils Horde. The difference between this logo and the modern one is that the S is less slanted in the old one, and the F is shorter as well as the rings. There was also this design, which was used for the opening gate to their film studio. This picture was taken around the 1930s. Their first on-screen logo was this. So far, we only know it was used on the film pronounced Georgovichana from 1920. This is where something weird occurs. Georgovichana was made by Scandia Film, and the film has the Scandia Film logo throughout, but at the end of it, the SF logo is there. Keep in mind that Scandia Film merged with Svenska Bio to form SF a year earlier, and that the film came out a year after SF formed. So what's going on? To be honest, I'm not sure. One possible theory is that this movie was filmed and edited under the Scandia Film name, and when Svensk Filmindustri became a thing, they took the rights to the film and so put their logo on there, but kept everything else the same. Georgovichana is the only film we know that contains this logo, although there's most likely a small handful of other films to contain it. The problem is, as with Universal, most old films are lost, or only a few minutes of the film remain. As such, finding logos on them is incredibly difficult. Plus, when films get re-released or when they get discovered, the old logos get plastered. SF are guilty of plastering their old stuff with their 1999 logo. Anyway, what came next? Well, this came next. It's kind of an upgraded version of before. The background is Stockholm with the sun setting. Quite interesting for its time, but how long was it used for? According to the CRG Wiki, it was used from the 1930s to 1946, but it wasn't. In 1921, SF made a film called The Phantom Carriage. This is a very popular Swedish film. The logo that appeared on it was this one, so the logo was actually used from 1921 to 1946. There is a version where the logo is on a dark background, which I've seen twice, both around the late 1930s. There is another version which has not been added to the CRG wiki yet, and only a handful of people have seen it. I found this a while ago. It's a version with added music. It sounds like this. I've only seen that version twice. Keep in mind that this logo only has one ring. Print logos around this time only has one ring, like this one from 1935, albeit slightly thinner. Print logos are very useful when searching for logos, especially for videos like these, but there are some print logos that deserve to be questioned, like this one. Not only does it have two rings instead of the standard one, but it has some text underneath it, which when put in translate means something along the lines of sound and speech movies, meaning that SF's films were starting to use music and voices. This print logo is from 1930, which makes sense because sound in films back then were still in their infancy. I found another version also from 1930, but this only has one ring. This means that the one rings version and the two rings version were used simultaneously, but for how long? Well, in order to figure that out, we must first find out when the two rings version was brought to the table. Considering this find has two rings, we're going to say that the two rings version was first introduced in 1930. So now we must figure out when the one ring version retired, which we'll get onto later. As with other companies like Gaumont, Pathé and Universal, SF also had a newsreel section, but theirs played out a bit differently. They had something called a journal film. A journal film was a type of documentary that would have been played before the main attraction in the cinema. It would have contained events from the past week, as well as propaganda information. This was first set up in 1908 in France and came to Sweden in 1914. SF's journal film subsidiary was simply called SF Journal. Here's a picture of an SF Journal van leaving the studio. This picture was taken around the 1940s. The SF Journal logo can be seen on the side of the van. According to some sources, SF Journal ended in 1960. Well, what did their on-screen logo look like? Someone else will show you that later. Any other subsidiaries from SF around this time? Well, I think so. I'm about to show you two weird things I came across when looking for old videos of SF. Here they are. I don't really know what these two things are. The 1931 has something to do with music, whilst the 1945 has something to do with juggling balls. SF didn't just make films around this time, they were developing newsreels as previously discussed, as well as shorts. Plenty can be found on the Film Archivet website. This website has plenty of old videos from Scandinavia. It's worth checking out if you have time. Anyway, back to the film side of SF. In 1939, they made a film called Den Forsta Linggarden. At the beginning of this film, there was this. As you can see, the SF logo here has two rings, but at the end of the film is this, the dark background version of the previous logo. So what's going on here? Well, as I've previously mentioned, both ringed versions were used at the same time, but this is the only film from SF that we know of where both are seen. So my question here is, why are both versions used in the same film? The ending logo should have been this. This is essentially an upgraded version of the black background variant of the previous logo. The only difference being is it has two rings. The date for this logo has changed throughout the CRG Wiki's existence. The current date for it is the 1930s to 1966. Is the date for this logo true? Well, I'm not telling you that. Take it away, Jay.
Thank you, CCG88. To answer the question, the date for this logo is wrong, at least from the variants we've gathered. As said previously, the date has changed throughout the website's existence. The date was originally 1946 to 1964 with no evidence of where it was from. Everyone assumed that the logo was still, as it said that there is no effects. But that's no longer true. It's basically a better version of before, with smoother animation and with no sound. If you want to know how the logo animates, here you go. So, where else have we seen this? Well, we were able to find this logo in 1944. That's the earliest we were able to find of the normal version of this logo. This logo is seen on Wild Strawberries from 1957, The Silence from 1963, and Persona from 1966. Those are the 3 films listed on the CLG Wiki, but there are more. We have found it on a film from 1960 called The Virgin Spring. It was most likely seen on older prints of films like Through a Glass Darkly from 1961 and Winter Light from 1962. I say that because on modern prints, the 1999 logo plasters them. What about films after 1966? Well, out of the films that Savensk's film industry did make from 1967 to 1969, all of them either aren't available, have the logo plastered by MGM, or the logo is annoyingly cut off. Some of them do have one thing in common, though. The print logo from the posters is the same, like these 3 films. This poster is from a film called Stimulantia from 1967. This one is called Shame from 1968. This film is called The Passion of Anna, and it's from 1969. As you can see, the print logos are all the same. This becomes more significant when 1971 approaches. Now, here is the on-screen logo of SF Journal. Quite creative, I must say. We don't exactly know when this was used, but we can say it was used in the 50s. Anyway, the next logo is the strangest one from SF. Roll the tape. This logo has become infamous in this community due to the bright colors and the jester. The date for this logo was originally 1964 to 1986. But no one has a clue about what films contain this logo. It's stayed a mystery for years. It might appear on TV repeats of SF's films from this time period if the films were not re-released and plastered. The oldest footage of this on YouTube is from February 7th, 2009 by a YouTuber called Macman912. The description when translated says that it was recorded from SVT1 in 2007. SVT1 is a Swedish television channel. So, we can prove that TV channels in Sweden did have reruns of SF's old films containing this logo. But what films had this logo? A good guess is the Pippi Longstocking series. There were a few films about this character in the 60s and 70s. These films were made by Savensk's film industry. If we can find old prints of these films, there's a high chance that this SF logo is on there. Check the Swedish film database. They have a list of SF's films on there. A black and white version of this logo has been uploaded to YouTube, but we don't know if it's real or not. If the previous logo retired in 1966, at least if the normal version did, then this logo must have been used from 1966 to 1986. So, check for any SF film between 1966 and 1986 and see what you get. Also, if you're from Sweden, check your TV channels to see if any reruns of SF's films from this time are on. It's worth a chance. However, the previous logo didn't retire in 1966. We have found footage of it being used after the 60s. Before I pass it on to TR3X, there's one last logo I must show that isn't on the CLG Wiki. We've seen this logo twice. You know when I said that these 3 print logos from these 3 films would become more significant? Well, they do in 1971 with this. What is this, you ask? Well, I'm not going to tell you that. Take it away, TR3X.
Thank you, Joe. This find was from 1971. You can see that this logo and the print logo from the posters look very familiar, but they are ever so slightly different. We believe that this is another separate logo from SF and not a variation of some kind. We can prove this further as another version has been found, and it looks like this. Weirdly, both these versions were seen on the same film called The Immigrants from 1971, but the film was distributed by Warner Bros. In the US, hence why there's an English version. Let me play you both videos. Very quickly, you can notice that the Swedish version is positioned in the top left corner. I don't understand why that is, but there we are. What's even strange is that The Immigrants isn't on the SF Studios page on the Swedish film database. Why? They definitely did make it, so why is it not listed? We don't know. The Immigrants is the only film we know that contains this different logo. There might be more. They should be added to the CLG wiki as soon as possible, as we believe it to be an extra logo. Moving on. You know how we keep asking when did the 1930s to 1966 logo actually retire? Well, we can tell you that we've seen it in 1972. At least, maybe a variant of it. Let's play it. We've also discovered a greyish version. Like with the 1971 logo, these two versions were seen on the same film, called The New Land. I think the yellow version is the Swedish print version, whilst the grey-like one is the American English print version. Like before, the film was distributed by Warner Bros. In America. That's still not the last time you'll see that logo. We have got superimposed versions to do. Superimposition is the placement of an image or video over an already existing image or video. This can often be seen in credits of films and TV shows. In this example, we can see that credits over a still image. We have discovered 10 superimposed versions. 6 of them are from 1979, 2 are from 1981, 1 from 1990 and 1 is from 1993. The 1992 and 1993 versions have the logo superimposed within the credits. I'll show you them later. Here are the superimposed versions from 1979 and from the early 1980s. When we discovered these, we were surprised. The ones from 1979 were from a TV show called Madicken. The two versions from 1981 were on the films Tuppen and Rasmus on the Cave. If you want to go on the search for more, have a look at films from SF around the early 1980s and see what you can get. There's most likely more if you look hard enough. These finds might be considered an extra logo or maybe just a variant of the good old 1930s to 1966 logo. All of these need to be added to the CLG wiki. The next logo is this. Nothing too new here. We all know about this logo. It was used from 1985 to 1999. Although the CLG wiki says 1986-1999, we have footage of it in 1985. There's nothing too exciting about it, right? Well, You are wrong. There is a black and white version and a 75th anniversary version, which are not entirely substantial. These are interesting in their own ways. What makes this logo worthwhile is a variant or a subsidiary of SF that was around at this time that has more questions than answers. Let me just play it. This is SF Television, a subsidiary of the main film division, we assume. When searching for evidence about this part of SF, nothing came up, so it must have only been around for a short time. Considering the quality of the footage, we're saying it was seen in the mid to late 1980s, but we have no proper clue. Searching was fruitless, we just have to guess until some useful stuff comes online. Nevertheless, it's a great find and it fits nicely in this video. What came next was another short-lived television company involved in the Finnish film industry. I am talking about SF Succé. Succé means success in Swedish. This was a television collaboration with SF, Warner Bros. And interestingly, Canal+. It lasted from 1989 to 1991. It merged with TV 1000, which is now known as VSR Film. We found two logos or items from SF Succé. They look like this. Quite creative, the film strip version is quite impressive. Although it was quite short-lived, the idents are quite memorable. I don't understand why the Canal Plus isn't on there though, considering that they were part of the collaboration. SF and Canal Plus would collaborate again in 2009 with SF Kanalen. Anyway, I need to show you the other two superimposed logos. These are from 1992 and 1993. These were found on the films Lotte på Bokmarkadgatan and Lotte flyter hemifrån. Lotte flyter hemifrån is actually the sequel to the other film, so it makes sense that these two films have a familiar SF logo at the end. Now, we have a really important question. When was the 1930s to 1966 logo last used? Well, the latest year we could find a variant was from 1995 with this red one. Here's the footage of it. It was seen on the film like it never was before. Not only that though, there was also this find, also from 1995, from the film Wanted a Million. It looks exactly like the normal version. And that was the final time we saw the 1930s to 1966 logo. We can now confirm that the date is now 1930-1995. It kinda makes the Jester logo look more suspicious, as we have no clue about what films it was seen on, but there we go. The final thing I must show you is the 1999 logo. There's nothing entirely secretive about it other than there's a black and white version of it which would be seen on releases of SF films that were in black and white. Let me show the footage we got of it. And that was everything we could find on SF Studios from 1919 to 1999. We can safely say that SF Studios has had a bigger history than anyone could assume.
For the past 100 years, SF Studios has stayed an iconic name in the film industry. It's nice to know that there are so many secrets behind the biggest Swedish film studio, and we've had a lot of fun uncovering them. We've worked on this project for 151 days, and we're really pleased with how things turned out. And it's all thanks to SF Studios. There might be even more secrets, we just need to dig some more. SF Studios will always remain an iconic name, not only in Sweden, but around the world, and we owe it all to them. Thank you very much for watching this documentary. We really hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye.